How's it going, folks? Let me just set up this tripod. Alright, set up already. Now, title reads all, and I'm only focusing on the welfare state, alright? Now, the welfare state, what really struck me on making this video today is for the fact that today, what day it is, 24th of March 2020. The government has just announced phase 1, Sunday, pretty much not eating in restaurants, having takeaways in restaurants as well. Non-essential shops will close. Gosh, what the, like gym or swimming pool, or recreations, libraries, government services, you can't just go in face to face. Those being shut off. Today they just introduced, schools are still ongoing. Not in Victoria State, because Victoria State right now is school holidays. What was it about? It was about beauty salons are being kind of beauty stuff are not essentials. They've been closing today, starting from tomorrow. And what else? Obviously there's just a flight ban and things like that. I'm pretty sure there's one more thing, but I think the video is talking about the welfare. Alright, so the reason why I'm making this video, as I work in the disability, and one of my clients has told me their welfare, social security in Australia we call it centrelink. Now centrelink has doubled their fortnight payment. So for example, if they receive, I know New Start and disability pensions, they receive around $5.20 per fortnight. Now if you got rent assistant, extra $60 or varies. I know when I had my Oz study, plus rental is $600, but let's just say $580. Now they will double it down to, let's just say $600, make it easier, $1,200 per fortnight. So they will receive $550 a fortnight. Now has been doubled, $1,200 per fortnight. Now this has doubled. What really amazed me the most about this whole thing is all of the welfare recipients receiving this. Those who jump on board, many people are lining up on the centrelink, the social security welfare, where internet and phone services has crashed or too much waiting queues. They just want to jump on board and all rush to centrelink. I won't talk bad about these people on going into it. It's necessary for people to go into it. Tough times. But I do know the fact that in order to be part of this whole getting a welfare, the rule number 1 is you make sure you didn't get fired from your job. Alright? But obviously with the coronavirus event and what the government's doing, the lockdown, it's a different story. It's government is shutting it down. So I'm not sure how is this going to play out, or these rules or standards or things like that. And hopefully the government do open up, make it loosely, instead of having the 6 weeks or 12 weeks or 3 months until you receive your first payment, which it has been in the state. And plus they receive 2 government stimulus package. Each of them are $750. So in the total they will get $1,500. Now why am I making this video? Alright, am I making to complain? No, I'm not making to complain. I'm just making to show you guys what has the society, what has changed. Alright, when I studied social work last 2 years ago, one of my topic was mutual obligation, and I dug the history and what has happened in the past to lead up to what it's become today. The mutual obligation, there's requirements to be to do some activities to meet your obligation to require so what you need to do once you receive welfare payments. So for example, you have to go through a job agency and look for work, go for interviews or do some trainings, etc. or have your job diary being filled in, etc. like that. Right? If you don't do your mutual obligations, then the government will suspend your account or reduce your payment. All right, so you got one or the other. Many people says Australia is a lucky country, so there's the welfare state for it. But let's look back in history. I know it's 5 minutes in. I know you guys are already kicked in. Right. Cool. Let me just have 5 seconds on how to talk about this. Okay, so that's less than 5 seconds. So when I was studying mutual obligation, you got to find out where the unemployment benefits has kicked in. If you look back, right back, getting your job loss or not having work, it's your fault. You're the scum. And it is your fault you've been disadvantaged. It's not your fault for not being intelligent or being you get looked down upon with the society. You're scum, you know, you're not working, you're not doing good for the country and things like that. That's when you have the religious charities, right, come in, give them a hand, give them, you know, food parcels or things like that, right? My next video is going to talk about food stamps and food parcels. Then you slowly grip on talking after the World War, you know, before the World War. This is before World War One and World War Two. Then the government started to realize this is the population is getting bigger and bigger. So the government in England has introduced workhouse, poorhouse, abled body and disabled or elderly. Elderly, disabled, they in mental health were looked upon as different categories, especially the disability and as well the mental health. It's very taboo, looked down upon of the society, down of the down of the down. So they will have the working house. This is during the time where there was two generations of workhouse, right? One of them is more of the charity base. When it first started, it was more of the was more of a religion, Christianity, open up. So in order to get food parcels or perhaps free accommodation is work in exchange. So you live in their condition and you do whatever you want. So, but it's you know, everyone's work and live and share the experience together. The government started to shut it down because it destroyed the society where people say, hey, why do I need to work hard where these guys, they work in food and accommodation in return, and it weakens the taxpayers, right, the wage earners. So what they did is during the workhouse, they had land tax, or those who contribute, and that's how the charity can fund all this food and accommodation. And one thing that the government shut it down is the amount of people jump on workhouse or poorhouse, right? And when they did that, they made it start to realize, man, everyone's just weak in the economy, everyone's jumping in, and people lose their job. They're just willing to go in there. Because back then, jobs were seasonal. You know, you farm certain things and you only grew crops that only grow certain season. Right? You don't have ongoing work or cotton or whatever. You guys can't understand what the hunter-gatherer or agrarian society was like back in the days, right? When the government shut it down and 2.0 workhouse was introduced, the government runs the facility, no longer the church or the charities. What happened is they make the jobs like the toughest of the toughest job. Make sure that you guys, when you get into the system, you want to get out of the system, force you to go out on your way on finding a work, alright? So they make you to do the toughest of the toughest work. For example, having a big stone or big ore, and break it down to little pieces. So if I had to put it in a way, just imagine a huge concrete block and you got to break it down to little fine small pieces, and or you have to do the toughest of the job that nobody wants to do. They try to make unappealing. Obviously the living conditions are not that great. One thing that really appeals to many people is having a free healthcare system, and that's about it. And you know, back then being unemployed was a scum, and having this whole sorry, I can't have eye contact because I think properly, so stay with me, yeah. It's important how this whole thing started, and working hours has been a long history, especially other European countries, or only in the UK, right? In Australia, there's probably one or two workhouse, but it wasn't mainstream. It was more of a better version. But Australia was Australia was formed. It was 1788. Now, agricultural revolution, industrial, we just barely into agricultural revolution, less than 30-40 years, and after that we introduced into industrial revolution. Therefore we don't have this working house. Now when we kicked into at that time, even before, there was no unemployment benefits. It was just you contribute your time and work, exchange for food and accommodation. Even though the government kicks in, they start to realize it's not working out. It grew more population, even though the jobs was harder, where food and everything, rations, sleeps and everything's there. I cannot speak for UK because I only study for Australia, right? Even after World War One has ended, the government still don't believe in unemployment benefits, but what they do believe in is widow payments. Their husbands who fought for war and lost their life, and it kind of makes sense for widows to receive the payments. They were the kind of the first ones. Then when you go to all the way to after World War II, when soldiers returned, many of them do not have a job. The government started to realize this is not just a private issue. It is a public issue. Where people lost their job. And they started to realize unemployment benefits was formed. They started to realize this is normal. We can't shame or blame them. Everyone lost their job. There's one that lost job. And when they received the payment, it was getting greater and greater, right? And that's when you have introduced the green card or the white card. That's what the Whitlam government has kicked in. Whitlam has changed a lot, actually. Working Nation, white papers, even the government before them. Geez, I'm really phased out with this sort of memories, but anyways, bear with me. Government will give you a job to work in a job. You know, It was a thing. People give you a job, work in a job. Not until John Howard. We skip to John Howard era. I think it's 2006. Or before that, 2003, 2008, 2001, or 2. When Paul Keating has failed miserably as transition Australia a country into a working nation, with Fraser and Keating in the late 90s to the early 90s, where they wanted to have this country to be working, make people to go volunteer, and people has voluntary decision to go on to work or volunteer in exchange to have their unemployment benefits. It failed miserably. Work compact as well. They give incentive to companies who hire these unemployment people. In return, these governments will give them incentive for 3 months if they continue working, 6 months and 12 months and 24 months ongoing sort of payment. When John Howard came to power and he privatized the Commonwealth Employment, it's CES. I forgot what it stands for, but it's something along the line. Employment Services has been privatized. So it's all about being stats and statistics now. It's all about KPIs. It doesn't care about humanity anymore. The work compact and job diary forces people to go out and go get a job or go volunteer in exchange to order to receive your payment, or else they'll cut your payment off. Until all the way now, from when John Howard introduced the New Start allowance. New Start started to form the name. And things has changed dramatically. John Howard era, there was more of a paper form of having, submitting your documents, by face-to-face to a centrelink. It was a lot easier than nowadays submitting your documents online or over the phone. Many people right now are complaining or waiting on the phone or getting crashed over the MyGov website. If this whole thing was a paper form, this will be resolved easily. But however, government's cutting funding, finding a way, because a third of the taxes in this country goes towards the welfare state. Now I'm very surprised, having all this knowledge and all the way now where the government's giving double the salary, giving double the pay, they start to realize this is not just a scum or burden. Even if these governments and the elites label these unemployment as scum of the society, dole bludger. Yet the government still look after the welfare recipients. Even regardless if you New Start, family tax A, B, I'll study, or AB study, youth allowance. There's so many names of welfares, and now I'm glad that the government's stepping in and doubled the money. I'm really glad, really did, because New Start allowance has not increased ever since John Howard came in power. It's more than 19 or 23 years that the New Start allowance has not been increased. Probably 19 years or 18 years. And now it's being increased just to undergo this crisis. Now this double payment on stimulus package is to keep the economy going, keep the economy spending on physical goods. Obviously this money is useful money, more useful than the one that Kevin Rudd did during the 2009. It was a lot more useful. 2008, the stimulus package is a lot more useful this time. But the huge difference between the Kevin Rudd and this stimulus package is cost of living is so bloody fucking high. Alright? It's so high to the point that you start to ask yourself, man, having a cauliflower, it's like $7 just for one, or $14 for broccoli per kilo, or I even heard $18 for beef mince. You gotta be joking to hear that. Anywho, that's the video. I kind of break it down just to show how much it has evolved from being a scum of the society to right now start to see how valuable it is. Many Australians has lost their jobs, and day after day, industry after industry, as what the government announced, many jobs are being cut off. This is tough times, you know. Many of them who could go bankruptcy, many of them will lose their houses, many of them will do this and that. But me as a wage earner, a taxpayer, it's pretty tempting, man. You know, $500 a week, that's alright, you know, if I think about it. Many people will more lean on quitting their job and get on the welfare state. How long is this welfare state is going to last if this coronavirus will go through? 6 months, 12 months, 3 months, 2 months. People who travel to Australia in recent weeks, who doesn't not self-quarantine, who has created this whole mess of mass unemployment. These are the people who are the ones accountable for. And when I was on the phone with my mates, people said, I felt sorry for international workers and students. I told them I never felt sorry for them, because when Australia, when they struggle, who's going to help us local people, our backyard people? Nobody. It's us local. These immigrants, they come in, they snatch the job, and they use Western Union and fund it back their country. It does not circulate their money. Yes, they do with food and everything, but they circulate money to their country as well. Local Aussies who have stimulus package will get double their welfare payments are circulating back to the country. There's a huge difference between them two. And hopefully when this whole thing ends, hopefully the government could have change, you know, lean to more towards to local. You know, I've been hired working in aged care, where the organisation has hired so many international students and workers, and I've been out-competed. I've been in that organisation for 11 months. So far, when I reached to my 4th or 3rd month, I had no shifts. Everyone's fighting for work. It's oversupplied and demand. People should start realize that the reality of the society, instead of this full far left and greeny agenda. Some of my viewers would disagree with everything what I said in this video, or some of them. I'm happy, mate. Everyone has their own opinion. But the locals should understand this video a lot deeper than most people.